thank you three for coming to my presentation. Actually, I was half joking earlier, but if you guys want to play along, since we're only three, as I'm doing my presentation, if you go to the app stores, if you have an iPhone or an Android device and want to download Day by Day in Synopsis, you guys can play along with me as I'm doing the demo so that you get a real sense for how it works. I'll even give you server credentials so that you can hit my demo server. We'll all be on the same box, if you're interested. So the session today was about how we're starting to introduce mobile apps that are not your traditional bag of BI, in the sense that historically in BI, BI was a place where you went to do reporting. You went to this place, you logged in, you created dashboards or you read dashboards, but it was this pull experience, this experience where you go to a place and you do BI. The world has completely changed. The pull model of getting information is arcane. And if you're still doing that in the enterprise, I guess the question is, why is it that we're still doing that in the enterprise? But, I get my news feeds that way all day long from every source except for my enterprise sources. And so we wanted to create a system that mimicked more consumer experiences and how we've become accustomed to consuming information, rather than just doing the same old thing in a prettier UI. And so before I jump into that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the mobile strategy and, just level set a little bit about some mobile facts. People don't realize that every time you start a mobile app, it registers with Apple or Android. And not only does it register, it tells us how often you start the app, but it tells us which device you're on and information like that. So using those statistics, and you can opt out of that. People just don't realize you can do that when you download an app from the App Store. These are all apps. These are not your Oracle specific. But interesting fact about Oracle BI Mobile as it is today, our current app in the App Store, it's actually the most downloaded Oracle enterprise app, which shows that there is some appetite for BI on mobile devices. It used to be mostly tablet downloads. Now it's about 50% skewed towards phones. But if we look at usage, how many people start the app, how many people stay in the app, how long they're in the app, there's 10 times more usage of the app on a phone than on a tablet. So if your executives are telling you, we need to do BI reporting and dashboards for a tablet, they're behind the times. They don't get it. They don't get it that the phone is now the primary mobile device. And the tablet's a lot easier. I wish it were the tablet because my job would be a lot easier. But the phone is ultimately the device that people consider their real mobile device. And the tablet is nothing more than sort of a lightweight laptop. The mobile app strategy at Oracle is really divided into sort of two major themes. We've got mobile web, and which just means HTML, right? So you hit our BI servers in your mobile browser on your phone or on your tablet, and we want to make sure that all the new generation of stuff will render gracefully and adapt gracefully to your mobile device. So today, when you hit a DV, a data visualization URL on your phone, it'll gracefully adapt. The menus move, the UI changes specifically to accommodate a phone. So it's like when you go to some websites, like your banking website, it looks a little different than if you hit the same URL on your desktop browser. So everything we do, not just moving forward, but since the last 2 years, is going to be 100% mobile web adaptive and responsive to mobile devices. So that's something you should just expect moving forward, because historically that wasn't the case. But in addition to that, we're also looking at sort of the consumer market, how people use their phones, what they do on their phones, and we think there's an opportunity to build a new class of apps that are mobile specific, that are a lot more engaging. And so we're also releasing some what we call App Store apps, but what that means is, Apple App Store and Google Play Store apps that you can download that'll hit your servers but present you the information in more compelling and engaging ways. And so there's 3 apps on the App Store that you can download that are BI related, if you will, or analytic apps. There's one that we call Mobile HD. And Mobile HD is for customers who've been long-term customers. They've had our products for years and years. And some of our old platform, what we call, answers and dashboards and BI Publisher and Scorecard, and all of that, what we call classic or legacy stack, that content doesn't gracefully render. When you hit it, when you put a URL, put those URLs in your browser, for example, there's still some flash in that platform, so it just sort of falls down. And in order to sort of accommodate that, Mobile HD will sort of fill in those gaps. If your dashboard is wide, but you're looking on it on a phone, Mobile HD will sort of hijack the layout and make it vertical so that you can scroll up and down with your thumb. It also takes things like prompts and turns it into like iOS widgets or Android native sort of feeling spinners and calendar selectors. And so that's what Mobile HD does. It lets you in one place access all your existing reports, whether it's the new stuff, the old stuff, a little bit of both, or somewhere in between. So, but the idea is you're going to access existing content. You're going to hit your server, somebody's created a report more or less, and you want to look at it. So it works really well for doing that. But we're also introducing 2 new apps, which are now GA. I'm happy this year is the first year, and we've been working on these for years. And they're actually all GA. Everything you see here you can download. There's one product that we call Day by Day, which is sort of the primary part of this presentation, and another one called Synopsis. And why did we create those 2 products? And so the best example I've come to think about to explain, like, if you can already see the CBI in mobile web, why are you bothering with this whole app store? Why are you confusing my users? Which app do they need to use? And the best example I could come up with, on the left here, you have a picture of bofa.com. It's actually my account on BofA, blurred out, of course. And on the left is the BofA website, and on the right is just 3 screenshots of the BofA app, okay, that I downloaded. And when you look at it, it's like, it's the same damn thing. Why are you bothering? Why are you wasting my time downloading an app? But if you look more carefully at the 2 home screens, this is sort of the main menu of the mobile app, the mobile web or HTML, and this is the native app. If you look more closely, on the right, I can deposit checks. And when I hit deposit checks on the app, it takes a little picture. I take a picture of the front and the back of the check, and it deposits a check. I can set up alerts. So, if my bank account goes below a certain amount, it'll send me a notification. It's kind of neat. I can say, hey, hit location, find the nearest ATM, so I don't have to pay a penalty fee for using a competitor's ATM. And I can even, this one over here, that you barely see, I can even schedule an appointment with a financial advisor, and it'll integrate to my calendar on my phone, set up the appointment, and I'm good to go with location, phone number, everything. And so when you think about the kind of experience we're trying to deliver, we want something really engaging. And all those little extras that we did on the right, those are the really engaging things. That's the stuff that bridges the gap between just a website and something that's really personal to me on my device. And that's just one example. Let's not even talk about how native apps are more fluid. I bet all of you do mobile banking. I bet all of you downloaded the mobile banking app. You must be. Well, you don't do mobile banking. Wow. You're the one. So anyways, we thought, let's look at what people do on their phones and try to get inspired by that, and then figure out how we can infuse BI in what they do on their phones. Not the other way. Not the other way that every other vendor, and including ourselves, have done historically is, I got a boatload of crap on a screen. I got a dashboard with 10 vizzes. How can I cram that on a phone? Right? That's what BI used to do. That's what most vendors still do, including ourselves for some of our other products. And we thought, let's forget that. What do people do on the phone, right? They read the news, they read email all day long, they get notifications, they call their wife or customer or important people. And so anyways, before I get to that, I like to sort of start by telling just a really short story to set the context. And so this story is just a friend of mine, a guy called Paul. And Paul, used to play guitar in a rock band, and he actually used to work at Oracle. And then he went to Computer Associates, where he works today. He's actually head of a big part of their UI design teams. And Paul married Cindy, and Cindy is the founder of a company called Yubo. And they make lunch boxes, and they were on Shark Tank together a few years ago. And Cindy's sort of thing was that she hated cleaning her kids' lunch boxes, and they were disgusting and full of crap, at the end of the week. And so she thought, I'm going to build one that I can just put in a dishwasher, and you can personalize it. And so that's Cindy, and they're married. They've been married forever. And they have, I put this deck together last 6 months. Unfortunately, Tucker passed away. That's kind of a downer, but they have a great dog called Tucker, and 2 daughters, Mia and Alex, who just graduated this year. And I was putting this deck together, and it's like, wow, I kind of come off a little bit weird talking about these people. But the point I'm trying to make is I've only met them once. Okay, I met Paul and Cindy at a dinner party of a friend of mine at Oracle. And they were nice enough, but it's not like, I'm going to call it, we're going to become best buddies, right? And despite myself, I know all of this about Paul and Cindy. I know the name of their dog. I know that he passed away, that his daughter just graduated high school. I know that they were on Shark Tank, and I actually watched the episode because they're the first people I ever met. And despite myself, I know all of that about these people. And imagine if, despite themselves, your employees knew about the business. And so we thought, let's look at how, modern consumer apps are educating, informing people, and how we can steal, pillage, and get inspired by those ideas, and how we could apply that to enterprise analytics. And so the first thing we notice is that Facebook and Twitter completely changed how people consume information. People consume information now. They expect data to just come to them wherever, whenever they want, in whatever format they want, whether they're on their tablet, on their phone, on their desktop. The other thing that's interesting is people don't spend 1 hour per day doing analytics, right? Or reading Facebook. They read Facebook 20 times a day for 1 minute. Or Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. That's how people look at and retain information. It's about more about repetitive enforcement of information than I'm going to go once a day, try to memorize this dashboard. And so that's what really inspired to build the app that we call Day by Day. And so the sort of general idea behind Day by Day is that it's an app that will learn what users are interested in. Again, it will learn. It's not set up by IT. It'll learn what users are interested in, and over time it'll start anticipating what users need and deliver that analytic to them at the time and place where they can make a better decision. And so the idea is also to sort of infuse BI into the user's daily lives as opposed to forcing the user to go to the place where BI is or happens. And so let me show you how that can look. Hopefully that'll work. Just let me connect here. Escape. Air server. Let me restart my air server. Okay, good. For some reason, the black on my screen on this projector is a little fuzzy. Is that really annoying, or is the screen okay for you guys? Okay, so hopefully nobody will have a seizure. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up day by day here. And when the app starts, it takes you to what you call the smart feed. Okay, and the smart feed is a list of analytics that the app has determined should be meaningful to me that day, based on what's going on in the business and in my life. And so it's a list of analytics, and I'll get back to how that works a little bit more later. But the primary interaction model for day by day is search, right? So users or people who need information quickly are accustomed to searching on Google, and we thought, well, why can't you Google your enterprise information? And so the primary metaphor is not building queries or dragging and dropping fields onto Canvas, it's search. So if I'm interested in revenue, I would just type something like revenue, right? And then as I type, it's showing me examples of what's available in the system. So I might be interested in revenue, and maybe revenue for smartphones, right? So I'm just typing, and as I'm typing, it's showing me what's available that have the word phone in it, from your enterprise systems, from your BI systems, from your Essbase Cube, whatever's back there. And so maybe I want to look at revenue for smartphones, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit search for that. And just like that, it's generated a report for me because it's just a straight up number. I wanted to know the revenue for smartphones. It just produced a tile, and you see that that's the amount of smartphones. You know, if I wanted to look at it specifically for 2012, I could have put a date, right? 2012. And so now it'll filter on 2012. And it's generating this on the fly. There's nobody who set up this report. So now the system kind of knows I'm interested in smartphones, right? So we sort of remember that on the back end for future use. So that's really a super simple, perhaps too simplistic example of what people might be looking at. But let's say maybe I'm a manager and I'm interested in revenue, but across all my products, right? And maybe by customer segment. And so you see, I just type what I want and select what I want, customer segment. And so now you can see that it produced multiple visualizations. So the first one is always the most dense, right? So I asked for revenue, products, and customer segment. So the first one, if I blow it up, you can see that it's for each customer segment and each product. I have the information. I can tap and do some basic interactions there. But if you're interested in revenue by product and customer segment, it's probably important for you to understand, is it, one product that's carrying, the revenue for the whole product line? So let's look at it at the dimension level for product. Or is it one customer segment that's either bringing you down or elevating your sales? So we try to give you not just the analytic that you requested, but also, if you're interested in this, you may be interested in that. The Amazon model. Again, we're trying to get inspired by consumer apps. So, so that should provide you with, pretty well-rounded view of sales by customer or by customer segment and product. But you're, of course, on a phone, right? Revenue by city and product type and profitability and discount amount. So I kind of just randomly said a bunch of things. And based on what I said, regardless of the order, or this is not a sort of canned demo, I can really ask it for numerous things. Based on what I said, again, this time it produced a much more sophisticated visualization, and you can see that there's actually a ton of data here. I don't know how that looks on the screen, but there's a lot going on here. What's more interesting about this is not so much the visualization, but if you look at what it returned, I said revenue by city and product type and profitability, right? I said profitability, but if I look carefully, it brought back, I'm going to find it here down here, profit margin, even though I said profitability. So it's smart enough to understand that even though there wasn't a measure in your system called profitability, it can infer using linguistics and other techniques that profit margin is probably what you're looking for. And so that's pretty important, because people tend not to memorize the semantic layer or the S-base cube or all the measures and attributes that you have in your BI system. And so that in itself is interesting, but when you think about it, why are people asking questions? They're probably asking questions because they're with a customer, maybe they're on the phone with a customer, or maybe they're going to a meeting where they have to be, maybe it's their status meeting every Monday morning, right? And we thought, well, so can we make it even easier? If you're always going to ask this question on Monday morning, maybe for any one of these, like discount amount by city, any one of these, you can give us some more information. So I could say, just add it to my feed, and that would just send it to that other screen I was on, right, the home screen. But what's more interesting is I can say, hey, bring this back. Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong thing. Bring this back every week at, 9:55, so that before my 10 a.m. meeting, just pop that onto my smart feed. So just like that, it actually behind the scenes is creating a scheduled report, and it's going to now auto-magically at 9:55 every week, every day, every month, beginning of quarter, end of quarter, whenever you want it, it'll add that to your feed. Now, that's pretty cool, but let's say you were in front of your customer. And so you're in front of your customer, and you're sitting in the parking lot, and you're about to go in, get your head ripped off because you've got some sort of backlog or some escalations that you want to keep an eye on. So you're in the parking lot and you say, well, let me check in on what's going on before I walk in the door and get killed. So you might say, hey, bring this back every time I'm here, right? Every time I'm in this current location, which is, in the middle of nowhere right now where we are. So you could say, every time I'm at the Marriott in this radius, bring this analytic back. Or maybe it's I'm traveling to New York, so maybe it's when I'm in New York City, maybe it's not here, maybe it's there. Bring this analytic back, right? And so that's cool. So now I can set it, and next time I land in New York City, that analytic will pop up on my feed. And on Android, we can go one step further because we have access to some call APIs that not everybody has access to. So on Android, you can say, hey, bring this back every time my boss calls. So my boss always calls me, and he's always mad at me because of mobile bugs or mobile escalations or my sales aren't right. So what I could do is I can call up sales numbers and say, bring this back every time my boss calls me or texts me or emails me. And so that's pretty powerful. So now, imagine you're on the road one day and your phone's in your pocket. You're not even in the app. And you go to a couple of job sites, right? You're visiting a couple of job sites. And while you're at the job sites, you maybe get a couple of customers call you, but you send them to voicemail because you're busy at the job site. And then at the end of the day, you go back to the office and you're sort of wrapping up your day, and you open the app, and in the app you'll have analytics about the 3 job sites you visited. You'll have information about the 2 customers who left you voicemails, and information about the couple of meetings you might have missed because you were out on the road. And so that's the idea behind Day by Day, is that it will learn initially from you sort of giving me hints as you're looking for analytics. But over time, if 2 people in this area are asking for these same analytics, maybe the 3rd one should just get it without asking, right? If everybody's in my department are asking for revenue by product type Monday morning at 9:45 before the meeting, and I'm part of the same group, why not just add it to their feed, right? Nobody goes to Facebook and authors a feed, right? It's just the meaningful stuff pops up to the top of the feed. And so that's the idea, is that we want to put the business analysts or the data scientists out of work, right? We believe that we can figure out some meaningful things that we should be able to infuse in your day to help you make better decisions. And of course, you're on a phone, and most people on phones collaborate with other people. So there's different ways you can share. So I could hit this button here and say, I could share this card, but I could share it with other people. So here I could share it with Matt. I could share it with, I think there's a user called dev user, no. Anyways, I could share it with a couple of people, with cloud user and Matt, and I could say, hey guys, take a look at this. My phone's in French. My phone's in French. And send it off. And so now on the top of their feed, they just got this card, and you see here on the right there's little icons. That means we've started a private discussion about this thing, whatever it is. And only the four of us can see what we're talking about here, and we can have a discussion. And at some point, the discussion may be over, and we might say, oh, we're not interested in this anymore. Just dismiss it, get rid of it. This is no longer relevant. And so your smart feed is going to be effectively just like Facebook. The most meaningful stuff will float to the top. The stuff that is no longer that interested will sort of fade off to the bottom. And so we think that's a pretty compelling new way of thinking about analytics, so that you can, again, infuse analytics into your life while you're making decisions, and not like it is today, where it's kind of like a post-mortem, right? At the end of the quarter, you go find out all the bad decisions you made. And so we're trying to change that to be sort of in line while you're making decisions. You can literally just take your phone, ask a question, get more insight, and then people manage with their gut and their intuition a lot, but now maybe they can add a little bit more fact-based information to make better decisions. Couple of interesting things to note. This demo is all about me, right? It's bring this back for me when I'm here, when I'm there, at this time, when this person calls. But what we're also doing behind the scenes is we're looking at what the collective is doing. The collective, I shouldn't say it that way, it sounds like Star Trek, but what your peers and your bosses and your employees are looking at. And if you've shown interest in the past in Tesla stock, for example, and today people are, strangely enough, querying a lot about something that you've historically shown interest in, we're going to start surfacing that on your feed. And so effectively you'll get a notion of what's trending in the enterprise that is related to what you have shown interest in the past. And so even though today, and in this version that you can download from the App Store, it seems very explicit and kind of dumb, frankly, that's because we're starting to collect the information to sort of pivot from a model where you tell us to a model where we suggest entirely. Well, not entirely, it's sort of a feedback loop, if you will. And so we can give you information, most popular searches, things that are trending, what people like you are looking at, what your boss, perhaps, that you've shown interest in. And if your boss is looking up information that you're also interested in, maybe it would be good for you to find out before you meet with him or her. And so that's the notion behind Day by Day. Is, again, to help you make better decisions at the time of decision making. Any questions about generally how it works before I move on to sort of the next part?
Are you going to go through all of how this is set up?
I can. I think I have time. Yes, I do. Yeah, it's actually really easy to set up if you have Oracle Analytic Cloud, of course. So people don't realize that in Oracle Analytic Cloud today, there's something called the search index, which is this process that looks at your existing content and sort of indexes it so that you can search, do text search against your reports and your dashboards and your measures and your dimensions. And that's already set up. And so to set up Day by Day, you kind of turn it on. That's it. If you've got a semantic layer, the work is already done. This is just another clever way if I went into data visualization, I'd have a menu of measures, right? And I would drag them onto a canvas. Well, when I speak a sentence, it's behind the scenes, and it's a lot more sophisticated than I make it sound, but it will look up which measures match what I've spoken or requested, and it will generate a report. But it's the same thing. These little cards I was showing, those are actual, on the server, if I go back and I look in my recent searches, I'll actually see these as data visualizations. These are tiny little DVs. They're self-contained and they're generated based on what you speak and say. And so from a setup perspective, in fact, yesterday, I might have the tweet around, a gentleman from a higher ed group came up to the booth and he says, wow, this day by day I just connected and I'm able to ask. So he was able to just connect. Admittedly, he had a beautiful semantic layer without too much dirtiness, because our customers do a lot of dirty things. And so, abbreviations, if I'm going to have, some customers have this shorthand for measure names that doesn't translate to voice, right? That's kind of a problem. And so that actually brings me to sort of everything I've shown right now is GA. You can turn it on to your existing Analytic Cloud instance. Let me go back here. The whole goal, of course, is to make it personal. But in the next release, which comes out by Open World, we're actually implementing true natural language. So I'll show you a little bit of stuff. I guess you can't see this here on the screen, but I typed, because you can type or speak, but if you make spelling mistakes or you don't even get the spelling right, now it's able to just auto-correct and find the right measure. So even if I type revenue over there on the right, it says revenue by year, but I got the Y and the R and the V all screwed up because I have fat fingers. It's able to sort of auto-correct that if you're typing. It also supports abbreviations and business aliases. So if I say number of customers by line of business, but my semantic layer has hashtag of customers, that's what we call it, or hashtag of cust, right? That's number of customers. And line of business in the semantic layer is LOB, right? So now we support sort of these aliases and these expansion of acronyms and synonyms, if you will, as part of the day-by-day or ask experience. Yes, it's actually, we're actually thinking the UI for that will be Excel. So you could give a business user a list of existing measures, and they could add in a spreadsheet a list of all the expansions they want, or synonyms or translations, if you will. That's kind of because we really don't want this to be an IT task. And people can, line of business, I don't know, there's probably 10 other, you could call that a whole bunch of other things. Some people say revenue, some people say net income, some people say whatever, you can, so it's really up to the user. Again, you can't see them, I really need to change this slide, I've never shown it, and it says top 4 on the right, the query I did, it says top 4 cities in terms of revenue. And so up until now, the queries I've said were, show revenue by brand and city in France in 2012, which are very specific. 2012 matches a year, France matches a region, it's very specific. So now we support what we call dynamic grammar. So top 4, top 20, top 100, bottom, top, most, min, those kinds of terms. You could start, and we're getting to a world where you can say, compare this year's revenue to last year's revenue. So for customers with orders more than $1 million. And orders more than $1 million, I know it's just English and it all sounds really, but that's really hard to build that. Show this year versus last year for customers with orders that more than $1 million. I bet it would be hard to author that, with somebody in the UI. And we're generating that on the fly using dynamic grammar. And then this one, I guess I can demo this one live, but Actually, I won't bother because it kills my session. But the idea here is that you can actually ask in one language and receive in another. So what I did in this demo is I can hear it out of you can hear it coming out of the projector. I said revenu par produit et trimestre, which is revenue by product and trimester, by quarter, right? And because we're able to now in V2 understand the intent of your question, it doesn't matter which language you ask it. So you could ask it in French, in German, in whatever, as long as we have one primary language for the semantic layer, we're able to present the information back to the user based on what they intended to see, not the words they used. And so that's, again, people look at that and, a lot of business users don't understand what's going on, right? It's not even matching words anymore, it's matching the intent of what I say. So that comes out as part of V2 in open world. Those will be my open world demos. And then day by day itself, so when I talk about ask, I'm talking about the engine that translates text and voice to a visualization. Day by day is the phone app. And so the next iteration of day by day will have bring back when contacted by, so when somebody calls you. But bring back when a threshold is exceeded. So I'm looking at sales and I say, notify me if sales increase by 10% in my region, okay? Or I'll be able to use my finger and draw a line on a chart and say, alert me, notify me, or bring this back when, sales cross this line, right? So it could be an explicit number or a percentage. And you'll be able to say if any of these bars or all of these bars, right? The sum of all of these bars. Anyways, it'll be a nice little visual metaphor to doing that. So that behind the scenes creates sort of an agent that looks at the data, and when this exception occurs or business opportunity occurs, it'll send you a notification. What's trending, I talked about, and what we call true push notifications. And so that's coming as part of the next release in the fall. And I'm just doing a time check. I'm not even, does this go to 9:30 or 9:45? 9:30, right? 9:45? Okay, good. So that's day by day in a nutshell. The next app I'm going to demo is an app that we call Synopsis. And again, the theme here is we really wanted to be inspired by consumer software and look at making things brain dead simple. And so Synopsis, the intent for Synopsis is everybody has, receives throughout the day spreadsheets or business data, and sometimes they're on their phone. And so first off, what does synopsis mean? Not everybody knows what a synopsis is. It's a brief summary or the outline of the plot of a book. And so what we mean by that is it's crib notes. It's, hey, here's the general information about what you're looking at. And so that's sort of the model we wanted to go to for Synopsis. So let me try to connect here with my Android device. Again, apologize about the fuzziness. But this use case here starts in an email, right? And so we all get emails like this with data attached, spreadsheet or any other type of data. And Synopsis, again, you can download it. It's totally free. And when I say totally free, it's not like it's free now, but we're going to get you later. No, this is really, really free. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on this spreadsheet, and I'm going to open this spreadsheet in a program that we think probably looks at spreadsheets really effectively, and that's Excel. And so this is my spreadsheet, right? I've got thousands of rows of data. And and I've opened it and I can't make heads or tails of this, and I'm on my phone, I'm on the train, right? There's just so much I can do. And let's say my boss had said, what's the top selling product in the West, right? I don't know about you guys, but I don't know how I would do that here. And I wouldn't even so if you look carefully, I can zoom in here, and I can see that there's categories up here, there's region, there's order month, some dates, some profit, some quantity, some quantity stuff, whatever, a bunch of information. And again, not that useful to me on this device. So I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to open it with Synopsis. And so behind the scenes, what it's doing, oops, let me, hang on a second. Get rid of some of these. I'm going to do that over because I've been doing this demo, so it was already there. I'm going to reopen it in Synopsis. And so what it's doing behind the scenes, it's reading the Excel file, it's processing, it's looking at all the rows, all the columns, figuring out what's a measure behind the scenes and a dimension and an attribute and all that stuff. And then it produces a project or a summary, if you will. And even just, these are all prior projects that I've looked at in the past. And even at this level, this is interactive. So I could look at revenue by region and quantity and profit, but that's just showing what the thumbnail does. But I'm going to tap into it. And when you tap into it, you can see that this same spreadsheet now, I already have more information than I did in the spreadsheet, right? I know that my profit is $171,000. My revenue is whatever, $1.6 million, and I sold 450,000 widgets. Now, it doesn't really look very good. And we didn't want to sort of create a model where you went to the place to make the data look good, and then you go to the place where you analyze the data. We wanted all that to sort of flow together. If you wanted to change the average, the count, the sum, you do it here. If you wanted to say, hey, I don't want decimals, you do that here. Hey, maybe I, don't want decimals and I want a dollar sign, right? So everything's just in line right there on the screen, pretty easy. For any one of these, I can actually click into it, and the system has looked at the dimensionality and prepared, again, a visual summary of that information. And so based on the data composition, it picks a chart type and creates it. So we didn't even have to go to a canvas and drag stuff from X to Y. I always give my DV friends a little bit of grief because, we've read every row, every record, every cell of your data. And in some UIs, we leave you on a blank canvas, which is kind of embarrassing because, this can do 1 million transactions per second, and my brain can barely hold 2 thoughts at the same time. And yet the computer is asking the dumb thing, which is me, to suggest what viz to use. That seems backwards to me. And that's the model we did with, we believe that the phone or the device should make the suggestions, and then you modify it, right? You teach it that, that's not really, I didn't want a pie chart, I want a bar chart. And that's the model here. So now, right away, I can see my revenue, I can see my regions, I can see my order months and dates, and so forth. I can tap in any one of these, and I can even, let me tap in order month maybe. Let's go date, that's a big one. I can hit the information icon and I can get sort of information about that chart. So I can see that the min, the max, the highest items or the highest dates and the lowest dates, and just a little bit of a summary. And that'll get smarter and smarter over time. That's more or less, once we fine-tune that synopsis, that's what we call a synopsis, a summary of the information, we're really going to surface that as far up in the UI as possible. Anyways, so for any one of these, I can click, and of course I can interact, and these are super fast and fluid. You can see that even for large data sets, this is really, really fast, which was really important to us. We want, the competition is not HTML, it's Angry Birds and Pokemon Go, as far as we're concerned in terms of user experience. So for any one of these, you can actually modify, and I could say, hey, I want to look at profitability and maybe quantity, and I'm a big bar chart guy, and I like the bar charts. Let me simplify it again. Go back to the original point of the question, which was, I think the question I had asked was top selling product category for the West or for some region. And so here I would say, I would add region, right? So now I'm looking at all my products, all my regions. And, I could play with the visualizations. I could stack them. I could do whatever I want. I had said in the South. So I could say, all right, well, just the South ones. So now this is the products selling in the South. And then I can even, filter on the top selling products by playing around with sort of the range by which I'm selecting the products. So you can see the tables are the top selling products in the South. And so the idea here, and of course I can then share that and send that off to friends and whoever might be interested in it. If this is something really confidential, I could lock it and use my fingerprint to lock the data set here. So now if somebody got my phone, they wouldn't be able to open it without their finger. And so we threw in some fun security measures. But the intent here is that, again, if I go back to the use case where I'm on the train, it would have been almost impossible for me to get that insight from just looking at this spreadsheet, even in Excel. So again, you can download this from the App Store and start playing with it in upcoming releases. And I'm currently showing you release 2, but visually it looks exactly like what you might have been able to download. Yep.
So the files would have to be in rows and columns?
Yeah, it's sort of a spreadsheet format, right? Rows and columns. We're looking at over time getting smarter and figuring out pivots and maybe financial statements and some more sophisticated formats. But initially, it's a fact table that we're loading. In the next release, I'll show you. We'll be able to. Whenever we demo these things, I come up with a scenario like I just did. But one of the fun things we've done is on the Apple device, you can look at your health kit information in this. And in this instance, you could load your Google Fit data, so the number of steps you've taken. So this is actually my Google Fit information. And you can see that these are the calories I burn. Apparently, I'm a lot more active on Saturday and Sunday than I am on Friday. I'm actually surprised that Friday is my sort of low day. I would have thought like Monday or Tuesday. But so we threw in some niceties there. The other big thing that we're introducing in V2 is the ability to connect to a BI cloud source, right? Of course, initially it's loading spreadsheets and CSVs from an email or from a Dropbox or wherever you might have them. But in the next release, you'll be able to connect to your BI server and tap and download, a data set from data visualization, which conceptually could be Essbase, right? And download that information and then do the same analysis on your phone. Let me switch to... Any questions while I switch to sort of the final demo here? Mm-hmm. Which one? Synopsis? Oh, yeah, actually, you're right. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that made it there. There. You totally got me. Sorry about that. It's a new slide. Actually, they didn't catch that Monday. Any questions? I didn't realize this had timed out here. While I just start this last part of the demo. Any impressions on day by day or Synopsis? Would you guys use that internally? Have you had a chance to play with either one, or you're not OAC customers yet? You have? Okay. Right on. How's it working for you so far?
Pretty well so far. Now, Synopsis doesn't have the speech part.
No.
What's your use case?
Just regular quick reporting. You're able to. So, I'm part of the system integration teams. But for some of the clients, I already have one they use, and sometimes they're going to go building in VA. So we have sitting on premise. They're going to go building in VA. We have a process where we export the data into the section and send it to them.
Out in those things or something.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, this looks great, but we're still on-prem.
Let me see if I... Sorry, this is taking a while, but and so the good news with some of the improvements that you can see coming actually sooner rather than later, is that some of the improvements in Synopsis are all about load performance. And so you'll see anywhere between 5 to 20 time load improvements in the next couple of months, I guess, when you're loading data files. So that should be really useful for you guys. All right, hopefully I've stalled long enough where I can actually display my tablet here.
Do you know what the performance is of a big file that we have initially these days? You get over 10 million records.
Actually, Matt, what is the largest file? It's insane. I mean, performance was...
So, if you're talking about 10 million rows in Excel spreadsheet, you're going to burn, you're going to heat a coffee on the phone all over. And we have loaded 300 million rows, and it took 4 days.
But it worked.
We can analyze it, right? So we blew out the limits, and we kind of came to the conclusion that, like, anything under 100K from a row perspective is, especially now that we have that fast performance, kind of just set up the load in a matter of seconds. The limits really come in terms of what the top right on the device, and we kind of feel that, like, anything more than 20, 30 seconds is out of our So we beat the file limits, the performance was, and actually the iOS update dropped last night, so there is a massive performance in iOS starting on.
All right, so the last part of the demo that I wanted to do is I've loaded day by day here because I want to show you how these are not just two completely separate apps that have no benefit, and that they actually each have their purpose, and frankly, they can be better together. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. So this is Synopsis on my Android tablet. I've got day by day here, and behind the scenes I've got Synopsis running. On Android you can do something really cool, and on the iPad Pro you can do multitasking, right? So I can actually have two things running at the same time. So I could, let's say, have day by day over here on the right, which looks exactly like my phone, and I've got Synopsis here on the left, right? And so we thought, well, sometimes you can ask questions that might be a little beefy. So profitability, discount amount by city and product type. So I'm pretty sure this will return a beefy result set. Give me a second. So, if I look at this result set, sorry, I always make that mistake. There's kind of a lot to digest in terms of, a phone, and I might want to do some further analysis and slice and dice that maybe a little bit differently. And so we thought, wouldn't it be nice if you can sort of grab that and drop it into Synopsis. And just like that, it's taking the data out of day by day, sending it to Synopsis, and then you'll have a summary about that information, as well as the ability to sort of slice, and it's prepared a little project here, and I could go in and I see my two measures, profit margin, discount amount, and now I could slice and dice it and do all of the interactivity that that I want. It's even offline at this point. And so you can see that, the two products, how long has it been off? Have I been? Oh, it just went off? Okay. Let's see if I can reconnect. So effectively, that's the idea, is that the two products, work seamlessly together. They each have their use case, of course, and sort of benefit each other. So that's the idea. Good. I'm glad to hear that you're actually using, Synopsis that way, and hopefully in the future you'll be able to connect to your DV instance and just download the data that way, simplify your workflow there. Very good. Any other questions? Good. Thank you.